Ooh, what are you talking about?
Captain America.
From poses to fighting moves, loads of references to the MCU are made in the film Black Widow. We've discovered the truth of Origin's past and gotten hints to the strength of the connection between Natasha and Yelena. These references and more help us understand the stories of the Marvel world. Which character shows off fight moves belonging to some of the Avengers? How about the heartbreaking line from Avengers Infinity War that's surprisingly heard again in this movie?
Perfect timing. Where's an Avenger when you need one?
The Taskmaster brings loads of action to Black Widow, and a lot of it looks very familiar. The Taskmaster is actually mimicking many of the movements of other Marvel characters, like Hawkeye with her stellar bow skills, and Black Panther with a copy of the Black Panther claws in the Red Room. Not to mention the Captain America nod with the S.H.I.E.L.D stamp being pulled out in a fight, and of course, Black Widow with her Hurricane Rana moves. The knife trick Bucky Barnes does in Captain America the Winter Soldier also appears to be in the Taskmaster's repertoire.
What is that supposed to mean?
The Taskmaster isn't the only one to pay tribute to Bucky Barnes. Florence Pugh as Yelena shows off the same move during Black Widow. What makes this reference especially interesting is the fact that it gives us a clue that Yelena and Barnes might have undergone some of the same training.
How is this relevant?
The safe house in Budapest is a place that we have heard of before in the MCU.
You and I remember Budapest very differently.
The so-called bullet holes, as Yelena mistakes them, were actually caused by arrows during a standoff battle that was brought up before in the Avengers film. It's a small but really powerful connection for us in the MCU. This line may just be the Black Widow's catchphrase.
Thank you for your cooperation.
Natasha's smug "thank you for your cooperation" line to Dreykov was heard coming from Romanoff in the Avengers film as well. It's the same way she leaves off her interrogation with Loki in the movie.
Thank you for your cooperation.
It's a pretty great catchphrase, so we wouldn't be surprised if it stuck around from here on out. The green vest that Yelena is seen wearing has been seen before. This is the same jacket Natasha Romanoff was wearing during the Battle of Wakanda in Avengers Infinity War. What's extra special about this reference is that it's a clear nod to the strength of the relationship between Natasha and Yelena as sisters. We are definitely very big fans of this sweet connection.
Can we do that?
Poor Scott Lang being forgotten is becoming a regular joke in the MCU now. In Black Widow, we see his name being forgotten when Ross references Lang as a shrinking convict.
We got Barton, we got Wilson, and the other guy, the incredible shrinking convict.
Among Clint Barton and Sam Wilson, both who get called by name. Tony Stark started the gag in Captain America Civil War, and Lang even tried to make a snarky comment about never being able to trust a Stark.
And Pym always said you never can trust a Stark.
Stark definitely wins this quip though.
Who are you?
What Lang did to end up being constantly forgotten, we're not so sure.
I know you know a lot of super people, so thanks for thanking of me.
Natasha Romanoff's poses are signature to her style, but that doesn't mean that they're above being teased. Yelena spends a chunk of time mimicking the over-sexualized poses that Romanoff did much earlier in the MCU films. One landing Yelena makes is almost the exact same one that Natasha does in Iron Man 2, but she isn't a fan and instead actually calls it disgusting. The Black Widow poses get even more references though. When Melina, disguised as Natasha, wakes up on the floor, the pose looks extremely similar to the awkward photo of Johansson that was photoshopped onto the Captain America the Winter Soldier film poster. Romanoff was also in an eerily similar position when she fell to her end in Avengers Endgame.
It's a fighting pose. You're a total poser.
Not a poser.
This is the first time we've gotten to see General Dreykov, but it's certainly not the first time we've heard of him in the MCU. In the Avengers film, the name was brought up during an intense confrontation between Natasha and Loki. While Loki was challenging Natasha on all of her sins, insisting she couldn't be redeemed, the mention of Dreykov's daughter didn't really mean a whole lot. Now, we understand he was referring to the fact that the Black Widow was the one responsible for Dreykov's daughter's death.
Dreykov's daughter. Sao Paulo.
Natasha's family begins their escape in Ohio in 1995, but not without being followed by the authorities. Of course, this isn't just regular cops. On the Jeeps here, we can see a logo of an earlier version of the S.H.I.E.L.D. logo. It may be different from the one we're used to, but it's definitely S.H.I.E.L.D that's on the Romanoff's family's tail.
Today's the day.
At first, we think the disk of tech secrets comes from a place called the North Institute. However, later we learn it's actually a front for S.H.I.E.L.D, but just to make things even more complex. This was a time that Hydra was actually infiltrating and running S.H.I.E.L.D. This all checks out with what we learned in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, about the fact that Hydra had actually been behind the scenes at S.H.I.E.L.D for quite a while.
A beautiful parasite inside S.H.I.E.L.D.
We still get emotional thinking of Peter Parker's heartbreaking final line from Avengers: Infinity War, when he meets his end.
I don't want to go. I don't want to go.
We were definitely caught off guard to hear that very familiar line again in Black Widow. In the beginning of the movie, Melina uses the words when explaining she doesn't want to leave Ohio. It's of course not as devastating a moment, but it's still a really nice callback.
I don't want to go.
Clearly, things are not and have not been great between Natasha and Tony Stark. By the end of the Civil War film, we saw the two's relationship totally break and move towards becoming estranged from one another. A small and subtle comment from Natasha regarding the super scientist is a great mention of her not-so-great past with Stark.
Tony Stark, maybe?
Oh, yeah. We're not really talking right now, so.
We got a taste of Hawkeye from the Taskmaster with the skillful bow work, but he does get a few more pretty significant mentions in Black Widow. His presence was still there even if he wasn't on the screen physically. In a flashback to Budapest, we see footage of Natasha being spoken to by Hawkeye through her earpiece.
Natasha, we clear?
Looking for the go-ahead to set off some explosives. We get to actually see Hawkeye's face as well, in a picture at least, on an iPad handed to Yelena. His photo is pulled up on the screen and makes a solid impact on the Black Widow's history in the MCU. In Avengers, it's shared that Clint Barton is the one meant to kill Natasha, yet the circumstances have shifted. This moment is also a great lead-in for Yelena, who we know will be appearing in the Hawkeye series.
I've got your next target. Thought I'd hand deliver it.
Black Widow brings us a somewhat surprising callback to the Hydra Miracles program. When Melina confirms the fact that Natasha was being used because of her genetic potential, it gives us a connection to the Maximoff twins, Wanda and Pietro, who were the two successful subjects from that Hydra program. The Nano Mask face swap trick is amazing, but it's not the first time we've seen it used in the MCU. Black Widow used the trick to disguise herself as Councilwoman Holly in front of Alex Pierce, using the photostatic veil during a peak moment in Captain America. Natasha made use of the handy tool again in Black Widow, when she disguised herself in order to see Dreykov. Sharon Carter also happened to use the same disguise method in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier series. If it works, it works.
What? What?
These smart and detailed references have really added to the richness of the MCU. It's great to see these moments brought up again and jokes ragging on characters like Ant-Man to some killer lines from prior movies. Which hidden references did you catch in Black Widow?